Good morning. Welcome one and all back to the Jack Shea Arena alongside the 1932 rink in Lake Placid, New York, as we get set to drop the puck on an 8 a.m. scheduled Junior Women's Hockey League game. This matchup will put the Northwood School Huskies U19 girls up against the Pride of Washington, D.C., the Washington Pride U19 girls team. This will be an interesting one as the Huskies are coming off a 7-5 loss to a powerhouse Stansted Spartans team, as they had matched up yesterday and went toe-to-toe right down to the wire until a tie-breaking goal by the Spartans put the Spartans up 6-5, and with an empty net, they put it away and took the victory 7-5 against these Huskies. Huskies trying to bounce back and take a victory against the Pride, who have a lot of work to do against this strong Northwood Huskies team. Folks, my name's Glenn Burnett with the play-by-play and color commentary. So good to be here. So glad you'd have me here. As we take a look out on the ice at the warm-ups, the Pride skating in the white sweaters with the black and gold trim. The Huskies in the deep blues. They pinked out the arena last night, and they are back to the standard blue and white. We'll go ahead and get you introduced to players from both sides. We'll go tip to tail with 85 seconds left ahead of our puck drop. We'll start off with the visiting Washington Pride, as we had a chance to speak with head coach Kush Sidhu, a friend of the broadcast. Met a few years ago when the JWHL had come to town. Starting off with the forwards. First line, we have Lido with the Plattsburgh Cardinals commit McGee on the left wing, Smith on the right. The second line, Benson out of West Friendship, Maryland. What a great sounding place to be from. With Ziegler on the left, Hegarty on the right. Third line, Arita, also out of West Friendship, Maryland. There on the left, and Vayette on the right. And on the fourth line, Mayer in the middle, Brocht on the left, Marceau on the right. And an add-on forward here, Rupke, who will get factored in according to situation. On the defensive side, we have Kramer and Viederman, Evans and O'Byrne, Wilbur and Boyce. And we've got our goaltenders, Brenner and Maloney. We'll stand by to get information on who's getting the start here today. And we have one more late ad here. Alford, 2027 grad out of Arlington, Virginia. It's that greater DC area. And so that is your Washington Pride team, their U19s. And then let's go ahead and take a look at the Northwood School Huskies as we get set for the opening puck drop. Front line in the middle, St. Pierre. To the left, Gillis. To the right, Kelly. Second line, Elbricht. To the left, McLean. On the right, Hagens. Third line, Martin with Erster on the left and Manette on the right. And on the fourth line, Reese L'Esperance. Pratt on the left, Sheeta on the right, and then to the D, Barton and Griffiths, Major and Wright, Perry L'Esperance, and Combe and Megan Holmes out of Miramichi, New Brunswick. We've had some folks tuning in, cheering for Holmes. The goaltenders for Northwood, Defoe and Zuck. Defoe gets the start. As we get a look down at the Pride, number 35 in net, that's Maloney. And we're underway. 3 20-minute periods in regulation. We've got a chat board that is live right now. If you're tuned in, go ahead and tell me where you're watching from, which team, which players. We'll get you a shout out during the course of gameplay. As we open up the Huskies coming out of their own zone. Out on the ice for the Huskies, we see McLean and Hagens. Here's McLean in the middle. And now Hagens plays it out to the left side. That's Griffiths on the D. And we see Martin out on the ice here. So Martin getting placed in. A little shake-up on this line. There's a shot wide of the net. As we see the Pride making some substitutions, as we see Hegarty heading off to the bench. Defoe handing it off. And looky here as Monette trying to sneak behind the defense. We got a shout out to Coach Trevor Gilligan and assistant coach Franny Girardi. We also want to give a shout out to Jason Beanie, aka Packer. He'll be covering the scorekeeping, timekeeping, penalty box, doorkeeping, and microphone keeping, as he'll be making the announcements here in the lovely Jack Shea Arena. Played down low, that's St. Pierre, as this is pulled away by Gillis. Gillis will rotate back up top. Played out of the corner. Through the right wing circle. Played back into the corner. As we see Boyce out on the ice for the Pride. And pressing up is there as she's able to get it to knock out into the neutral zone. And that forces an offsides. Strong defensive play by there. Played into the Husky zone. Early first period action. As this is Gillis working on the right wing side, centering pass. Drop to the Colgate commit, St. Pierre. And now reversing course as this is Mayer. Mayer on the left wing side trying to feed the slot. These morning games really do ask for fundamental play. As this is played up by Kelly on the right wing side. Particularly when you're coming back off of a loss, as the Huskies had emptied the tank last night, facing off against the Spartans. Here's an opportunity working up through the slot. Shot, Defoe with the block. Well played by McGee, who has committed to Plattsburgh State. Check that. That's a strong program. The Cardinals, that whole area there at Plattsburgh, just south of the Canadian border. And so they mix things up quite a bit in that area with a lot of the Canadian teams just south of the Quebec province. Shots on goal, the Pride with 4. Northwood yet to put one on frame. as we see Benson stepping in. Laid out to McLean. Little poke check there. That'll disrupt play. Played over the top of the slot. That'll get knocked back out to neutral ice. As Wright goes D to D over to Barton. Now, I chatted briefly with Coach Sadu about how things were feeling for the team. They picked up a win over on the 80 yesterday. They felt that it may not have been challenged too much in that one. They're looking to pick up a little bit of technique here, see if they can't put their best out against a Huskies team that's looking to bounce back. Now, depending on the rest and recovery for the Huskies after pushing it to the limits against Stansted yesterday, there may be some opportunities here for the Pride to take advantage, as we see Erster trying to sneak behind the defense. All righty. We've got a Washington fan on board. I want to give a shout out to Amanda. Go Pride from Tacoma Park. Kick ice. I like that. Haven't heard that before. Rooting for number 22, Taylor Boyce. Welcome to the broadcast. As this is played over the mid slot, shot through traffic. And Tifo, who had a lot of busy work last night against Stansted, will try to stay sharp here today. As this is played back into the Northwood zone. You see Kramer out on the ice for the Pride, along with Viederman, as Viederman chases back against Kelly. A pair of 18s out there on the near side half wall. As the play works around the corner wall, Gillis from the corner up top. Played to Combe, and Combe sends that up into the glass. That'll be picked up by Kelly. And now steered clear as the Pride cross neutral ice and get some fresh skates out on the ice. Pretty strong bench lineup on both sides, so they should be able to keep themselves fresh throughout gameplay as this is played into the middle. That's Reese Lesperance, number 24 for the Huskies, and that'll be chucked into the corner. Played from the left wing side, top of the circle, and that'll be covered up. And so a stoppage of play here. 7 minutes and 40 seconds into the first period. 12:20 remaining first period action. Shots on goal, the Pride with 5, the Huskies with 1. The number of shots on goal, we say, may be telling but not necessarily meaningful. Quality of shot is handy, and you will see teams who have a much lower shot output taking victories. As this is played out to the left point. And now driving in for the offense. This is Ziegler through the middle and covered up by Tifo. We've seen some good looks there by the Pride as they get another shot off. as we see Arita stepping in for the face-off alongside Brock. On the backside is Boyce. Boyce playing it out to the left wing side. Brock trying to possess. And this is played well deep into the Huskies zone. Wright picks it up. Played back around the corner to Holmes. And then angled back out as Boyce tosses it deeply into the Husky zone. And a delayed offsides as a miscommunication out there. Arita got hung up in the offensive zone. Didn't know that there was a delayed offsides. And now everything right back to normal as Boyce chases in. Played against Hagens. And this is drawn back into the Husky zone as Wright possesses. Tossed up ahead and chased down by McLean. Boyce forcing McLean wide from the half wall. Turnaround and dumped back in as we see Kramer on the near side corner, and Boyce tosses it out to the half wall on the far side. This will be chased down by Griffiths and tossed up the right wing side as Kramer drops back. 10:15 remaining in this first period. An 8 a.m. puck drop. And we see that I'm not the only person up early to watch hockey as we welcome Shannon onto the broadcast. Now I see LET, and I want to finish that by perhaps saying, let my team win, but I believe that that might be a typo, and that might be a Lido fan. Go ahead and confirm, please, as Tifo comes up with the stop. Shannon out there, if you can tell me, confirm, are you a fan of number 16 on the Washington Pride? As we set up a face-off to Tifo's left side, played to the half wall. This is worked around to the near side corner. The Huskies looking for the exit as this one's held back into the offensive zone by Benson. And now the Huskies reversing course. Played up ahead to St. Pierre, and that'll go down for icing. 9:13 remaining first period action. We're scoreless here at the Jack Shea Arena, the 1932 rink on this JWHL weekend. We covered a pair of Huskies games last night. The U19 girls here. And we saw the prep boys in a 2-on-1 shaping up. Here's a wrister as Kelly takes that one off the post. And now reversing course as the Pride looking to sustain the offensive zone. And here comes St. Pierre up on the left side. Check that. That would be on the right side. Played out around the corner, back up top as Barton gets a wrister, and that'll be held on to by Maloney. And who else do we have out on the broadcast? Last night we had a father tuning in for Stansted from Germany. And so we were covering the Friday evening spotlight, the 5:20 game yesterday. By the time that was about over, it was nearly 1 o'clock in the morning in Germany as this is sent down to the end wall. Chased in by McGee. Played down low, wide open. Still loose as that gets ticked away in a close call. This one pops over the top of Tifo as Tifo was stuck down on the ice, scrambling to pick up the loose puck, and the Pride with the icebreaker here as we see Viderman leading the charge. close call down on the ice as there was little short play around the crease. Defoe trying to reach out and grab the loose puck. Couldn't do it. It did get bopped out towards the top of the left circle and then tossed down. An off-speed lofted play. Made it up top. And with just so Peterman from Smith. Now played up from the half wall. So I mentioned earlier, this Pride team has an opportunity to try to take advantage of perhaps a team that's going to need a little bit of time to get themselves clicking on all cylinders. And we've got our first penalty as Veillette goes to the box. All right, Shannon, where are you watching from? And which player are you following? Played from the left half wall, and now the Huskies standing up their power play set as this is Kelly down low. And so Veillette for hooking as this is played up top to Major. Played down to the back door, and this one slices in. And the Huskies with a power play goal, 29 seconds in. And a big break for the Huskies. As that was St. Pierre out on the left side. They do a good job of cycling the puck around on the power play. This one was sent down towards the back door. It appeared to be just a typical set it up for a redirect down low on the back door side, but somehow was able to make a direct shot, and now a play down low, and the Huskies trying to double up here. And so that was St. Pierre from Major, which on power plays is not an unusual combination, as Major often up on the top side. No goal here, close call. I believe that came off of the post and went square across the goal line, but not over. You know these types of shots, the ones that hit one post, ricochet outward, just barely ahead of the opposite post, unable to be contained. And so the Pride dodge a close one. 5:49 remaining, and the Pride send one to the box as we see Lido in the box. Washington Pride, number 16, Sophia Lido. 2 minutes for unsportsmanlike conduct. Time of the penalty, 14-11 in the first period. Lido. And so Lido for unsportsmanlike conduct. And you got to be careful about these things. When you see that type of play, coach is going to get straight to the player once they come back to the bench. And will communicate that to the rest of the players, because sometimes those actions find their way working across the rest of the team. The coach will instruct them to contain themselves, because you do not want to find yourself yielding more power plays. Meanwhile, the Huskies still with another 60 seconds worth of the advantage. Fresh skates out on the ice as we see Arita out on the ice for the Pride. This is grabbed away by Erster. Do we have our Erster folks out there on the broadcast? Played up to Hagens. Hagens rotates it up top. That's Barton. Sends that one slicing through to the end boards. Picked up again as they rotate it around to McLean. And McLean on the left wing side has that one stuffed and sent back down to Thibault. Barton will grab possession as we see Veillette out on the ice for the Pride. Hagens working on the right wing side. Veillette looking for the puck to come out, and we hear the clack, clack, clack from Thibault as out comes Lido, and Lido goes straight to the puck. You'll see certain characteristics of players out on the ice. We see that Lido is very determined. You get some who are willing to go toe-to-toe and are not afraid of the moment. Played through the middle. This is McLean, top of the slot, poke checked away. As we see Viederman out there lending support for the Pride. Played up through the slot. Sent back down low by Monette. Monette chasing. Now working up on the right side. This is Griffiths. Griffiths down low. Monette with a shot, and this one's deflected in. Griffiths coming up on the right wing side, eased it out to the right face-off circle. Meeting up with Monette. Monette gets a shot off, and I believe I saw a little bit of a deflection down in front of Maloney. And Northwood with 2:37 remaining in the first. Now in front 2-1. Their first lead of the game. Played around the corner wall as Thibault will let it go. And so that didn't make any further contact with another Huskies player after it released off Monette's stick. And so indeed, that'll go for a Monette goal with Griffiths on the assist. And the format on these games is 3 20-minute periods. And for the girls, yesterday they went without a refresh of the ice between first and second periods. That first intermission was just a brief timeout at the benches and then back into action. And then they went with the ice cut in the second intermission, which is also driving a great deal of conditioning out here for the girls. Played by St. Pierre, fed into the middle to Kelly as that slips past her. Here's Major. Major feeding into the middle. Kelly down low. And St. Pierre comes up with a rebound. Brings it back up top. And Wright sends it wide of the net. And so you may have heard in the background, final minute in this first period. Here's St. Pierre. As that one shot past O'Beirne into the clutches of Maloney. Shots on goal comparison 12-10 favoring the Huskies. We're down to 40 seconds remaining in the period as this is chased down by McGee, played out in front. And overskating it, an opportunity shot to the weak side, rebound out in front, and the Huskies dodge one there as that was set up from the right side, shot off of Defoe. And of course, those dangerous rebounds are the ones that go to the weak side where the goaltender is not yet in position, as this is blocker down in front. Turnaround shot held onto by Maloney at the last second, and the buzzer sounds. That'll close out one period of play. And so a quick intermission as the Pride gather around Coach Sadu. And they'll get some coaching up to see how they might be able to handle this Huskies team. You don't want the ice to tilt too much in the Huskies' favor, particularly since they have home ice advantage. And that'll go a long way, even if you are a bit worn after a highly competitive game yesterday evening. Let's go ahead and welcome our Erster family back to the broadcast, watching once again from Whitestone, New York. And thank you so much for the kind words. I enjoy doing this. It's been quite some time. We've racked up a lot of games here in Lake Placid. I'm sure you remember me mentioning, as I try to get this out every once in a while, having grown up down on Long Island, a couple of different towns. Hometown was Brentwood, but I was often attending school outside of Brentwood. Spent a couple of years in Huntington during high school. Played a little bit of fall baseball for Suffolk Community College while attending the Selden campus out east. And believe it or not, you could probably tie a lot of what I'm doing now in my career back to what I was studying in Selden. Some was the behind the scenes stuff in the theater department, stagecraft. Here's a shot on net as we open up second period action. And then also a little bit of acting. Took a public speaking class for fun down in Florida, where my family had relocated from Long Island. So I had a feeling I was going to be talking in public and enjoying the process. As this is worked up on the left side, it'll be sent out towards the right side around the rim. As we open up second period play, I like to do this traditional ritual, a tribute to retired NHL commentator Doc Emmerich. Once upon a time, a fan in-house here at the Herb Brooks Arena right down the hall said that I sounded a little like Doc Emmerich. I think I sound like a bunch of different people depending on what's happening out on the ice and the inflection, the pace and tone. But once I heard that, my producer suggested, hey, why don't you open the second period with a tribute to Doc Emmerich, who would say, welcome to the second period, the period of the long change. As the goaltenders trade nets, putting them in the defensive zones they guard on the opposite end of the ice from their benches. This makes defensive on-the-fly substitutions difficult. A questionable decision there by Tifo, almost leaving the net open for an opportunity for the Pride. So the key takeaway in this second period, this long change period, is to get into the offensive zone early and often. Apply pressure to the opposing defense. See if you can fatigue them, find them flat-footed, out of position, perhaps pulling penalties. But most of all, you want to get shots on net and pucks in the bucket. Speaking of, Northwood with 13 shots on goal, the Pride with 12. And as far as biscuits in the baskets, well, the Huskies have 2, the Pride have 1. And a vertical pass here up ahead to Brock as she chases, taken away by Combe. The Pride getting some good looks here. They have been going relatively toe-to-toe. That can be very encouraging. The main thing here is you want to make sure you play your cleanest, tightest game. You need to execute and play with good technique, as this is held on to by Tifo. Just a couple and a half minutes into this second period. All righty. Well, we've got another grandparent as we give a shout out to Peggy out there cheering on the Huskies, watching from Floral Park, New York. So another Long Islander out there, an Erster fan. And so Peggy, welcome to the broadcast. So good to have you here. As this is played up through the middle, Kelly pressed off of the puck. Strong defense by Kramer. And now working back the other way. As we have McGee out on the ice. Keep an eye on McGee. As she steps off for a quick breather. Replaced with Ziegler. As Ziegler up on the left wing side, chips it down low. Ever since being introduced to this JWHL group, I've found quite a bit of entertaining competition as this is played in a far side corner. Played out from the far side half wall, and here come the Pride. As it's worked up by Benson. Benson with a little dump at Chase. Played around to the near side. I grew up listening to Rangers and Islanders games on Long Island, and there's a bar down. Reese Lesperance. Another Islander, just a few of them on the roster, but the Lesperance sisters out of Sands Point, New York. For those of you ever traveling down to Long Island, if you're looking for an interesting site to visit, Sands Point Preserve up on the North Shore. And so Northwood up 3-1. And now worked in by Holmes. Played out to the far side corner as we see Brock battling for possession. Plays it out to the middle of the zone. Close call, but nobody there from the Huskies side. And so that'll be tossed in deeply by O'Beirne. O'Beirne out of Potomac, Maryland. Sends that one wide of the net. Played out to the far side and chased down by Rupke. Played out past the point. And this is O'Beirne dropping back with one on the weak side. And beautiful positioning there by Maloney. As she had 2 attackers on and only 1 defender. Hagens was on the weak side. But very strong positioning by Maloney. Denied that opportunity. So all of the broadcast exposure that I had down on Long Island from listening to Rangers and Islanders broadcasts, as well as so much other radio out there, really found its way into my work. And who would have thought, going back to 2018, that I'd find myself covering high-level action as this shot is also denied. And Maloney pitching a good effort for the Pride. This is played by Kramer, sent up on the right side as Smith sends it down. Chased down by Combe. As we see McLean rotating up top, guarding Kramer at the point. As Viederman sends it in, delayed offsides, quick tag up. We're watching the energy levels of both teams here collectively as well to see if anybody is getting fatigued. Again, log change period has a tendency to do that. And so Pratt and Sheeta on assist 1 and 2 respectively for the Reese Lesperance goal. And here's Defoe again daring to come out of the net behind the net with attackers in deep. Played around to Boyce. Boyce from up top sends one that gets broken up down through the faceoff circle. And this one will find its way down to Maloney, and she'll cover up. 12:27 remaining second period action. Northwood up 3-1. Glenn Burnett with your play-by-play and color commentary. So good to be here. So glad you'd have me here. For those of you interested, you'll find me on the 19th most popular social media site. That's LinkedIn. For any of your professional interests, get a little bit of a sense of how we got to where we are here in this section of my career. Played by St. Pierre, played out towards the right side, centering pass. That one misses the mark. You see Kelly out on the ice. Played out to neutral ice. And a strong play by Brock to force that one out of the defensive zone. Saucered up ahead and now racing down as Veillette gives chase. Play to the blue line. And here comes Wright. Wright, the Lindenwood commit out of Connecticut. Played up to the half wall. Working around on the right side. Happy October to you all. I'm sure by this time downstate the leaves are starting to change. Of course, up here we get the leaf change a couple weeks early compared to you. Woke up this morning, checked the temperature, it was 47 degrees, not terribly cold, a little chilly. We will get up around 70 today. We had a beautiful ride in to the office. I'm located 8 miles away in Saranac Lake, and the ride to work is in the direction of Sunrise, as this is played from the left wing side. Beautiful observation deck here at the Olympic Center. Anytime I have these early starts, I like to go out there and just collect my thoughts as I watch the sun break over the top of the Adirondacks Mountains. Beautiful sight as this is played from the right side, deflected and knocked away from the slot. Rupke out on the ice for the Pride as she is trailing Pratt. And now Rupke pressuring down low once again. I think perhaps that's just the MO for Defoe. If the puck's behind the net, go retrieve it, settle it down, know where it is. Good poke check here as we see McGee back out on the ice for the Pride. Here's Major from the left wing half wall. Played out across neutral ice. And now Hagens sends it across. A little mix up there as McLean finding herself in the same zone as Perry Lesperance. And we'll get a face-off to Maloney's left side. 9:20 remaining second period action. Shots on goal 16-13 favoring the team in blue, the Northwood Huskies. For anybody else out there on the broadcast, perhaps you messaged as the broadcast was opening up and I had not already opened that chat tab. Any of those chat messages don't show up if I'm not already clicked on the chat tab. They only generate after I click on that tab. So if you're out there and you're rooting, whether it's for the Washington Pride or the Northwood Huskies, go ahead and hit me up on the chat board. Tell me where you're watching from, which team and which players, and we'll get you a shout out to acknowledge your support. And also for entertainment. It's fun to hear one's family name mentioned during live action like this. As this is played up through the middle. Benson sends that on Defoe, and Defoe stopped with the paddle and quickly covers up. For those of you Husky fans out there unfamiliar with the Washington Pride, the co-founder of the Washington Pride, Kush Sidhu, also co-founder of the Junior Women's Hockey League, as he is putting a great deal of effort and energy in building up this league and gaining a strong reputation for the talents within, as this is played up into the high glass. We see Erster in the mid slot. This is played down to the end wall. Erster chases, played around to the near side. As we see Monette, who picked up a goal earlier. This is gathered by Kramer. Kramer in the corner. Plays it up ahead to Brock. Brock angles that one out. Misses Veillette. And now here's Monette through traffic. And Kramer in the corner once again. Battling behind the net. As we see St. Pierre picking up possession. She'll drop it off to Wright as Wright has pinched down. And the Huskies holding a strong forecheck right now. Played down low as Monette sends it out wide right. And that's sent across the slot to the near side. Played out to neutral ice. And Major tosses it. Major and Wright will head to the bench. And out comes Combe and Holmes. Combe sends it down through the middle. Played out to neutral ice. All righty, let's go ahead and give a shout out to Marcellus, New York. As we have another grandparent watching, a fan of Cora Major. Major has an assist in this game. She had sent one down to St. Pierre. Speaking of, we have St. Pierre in the middle with Kelly and Gillis alongside. St. Pierre feeding the middle. Here's Gillis with a shot that comes off a leg. As we see Wilbur disrupting the action. Played out through the middle, out of the reach of St. Pierre. Played back up top, and here's Smith on the right wing side. Played into the middle, and here comes Gillis. As that's jarred free, St. Pierre comes up with possession. Played up top, and Barton lost it for a moment, regained it. Sent up ahead to Pratt. Here's Pratt tied up in the corner. Forced down to the ice. No infraction there. As O'Byrne tosses it out to neutral ice. We're down to 5:03 remaining second period action. Northwood up 3-1. We've got a tumbler of coffee here that is not getting much action at all. I think I'm going to have to reheat it in the intermission. Folks, we know about priorities, right? As this is played up on the left side, shot straight on. Ziegler had a good look, a one-timer held on to by Thibault. All righty. Shout out to Delaware as we have a Viderman fan tuning in for the Washington Pride. Viderman playing on the defense for Washington Pride. So glad to have you tuned in. We've got a friend in Delaware. I don't know if he's still working at the Opera House, but a buddy of mine who I met studying stagecraft down on Long Island ended up working in sound. Steve Monacchio. He may still be at the Delaware Opera House in Wilmington, as this is frozen here in the far side corner. Played into the middle, shot deflected as Wilbur clogging up the slot. Maloney again. Maloney showing strong technique out there, and a shout out to Leslie rooting for Lido. Correct me if that is an incorrect pronunciation. You can, anybody out there, if you're hearing your family name, I am open to folks correcting the pronunciation. Typically pre-game, I meet up with the teams and I run through the last name pronunciations on the roster. I usually steer clear of the first names since I get different names every weekend, and it's very difficult to register first names as well. But if you hear your last name mispronounced, go ahead and hit me up with a phonetic spelling. That is part of my pregame ritual. Stop by both teams, run through the last name pronunciations, and have folks correct me if I'm wrong. I don't mind being wrong. It makes it a whole lot easier to remember what the correct thing is once I've been corrected. Sometimes corrections sting, and they leave a lasting impression. And so here we are, 2:35 remaining, second period action in a 2-goal game right now. Northwood had their work cut out for them against Stansted yesterday, as Stansted opened up the scoring, and it went back and forth into a barn burner. We were 5-5 late in the third, as this is played across neutral ice, angled out towards the left side, as we see McGee. Well played by Viederman as she keeps it in the zone. Played up top. Here's a long wrister that catches a shin as Kramer and Viederman drop back to the defense. Maloney drops it off and played down by Holmes. Worked out by Lido, as Lido sends it deep in the offensive zone, buying enough time to get some changes out there. And Lido and company head over to the bench. Fresh skates out on the ice for the Pride, as we see Evans, O'Beirne, Benson out on the ice for the Pride. Here's Barton as this one slips past her, and she will chase. Racing up ahead is the speedy Ziegler. And now the Pride trying to stand up and attack here. All of this initiated by the speedy skating of Ziegler, forcing the issue, and now going the other way. Gillis from the left side with St. Pierre, ever dangerous out there on the attack. Played to St. Pierre on the right wing side. As she gets bracketed, and the Pride able to send it down. That'll go down for icing, as we're down to the final minute in this second period. All right. Thank you so much. Watching from Montclair, Virginia. Well, I want to thank Amanda out there for the kind words. It's part of the process, and I have found it's a whole lot better as this one cleared away by Maloney. And it is a testament to how much work gets done on my feet running around the arena pre-game with very limited time. I really only have the amount of time that it takes for a Zamboni to go across the ice to run down and gather that kind of information, as I'm often covering teams for the first time, especially visiting teams. And we cover that in a lot of the youth hockey tournaments that are held here. This is raced up on the right wing side, and Smith very determined with a last-second shot at the buzzer as that comes off the side of the net. As the Pride very excited to see the kind of energy exhibited at the tail end of this second period, as they're able to not let the ice tip much in the long change period. And that is something that you can often find happen in the long change period. A team that trails often finds themselves in a tough way trying to catch up during the long change period. So that closes out second period action. And we'll head off to the locker rooms and get a fresh sheet of ice out here wrap up that last thought there, chasing down pronunciations. If I go through even just 30 seconds, and I have to be very commanding in the live audience when I'm going through the pronunciations, because a lot of times the teams that are here are unaware that there's going to be somebody covering play-by-play, and I have to catch their attention quickly. Now, my regular conversational voice doesn't sound necessarily like this. When I approach them, I have to have this voice on. It has to catch their attention. And then, very simply, hello, my name's Glenn Burnett with the play-by-play and color commentary for Olympic Center TV's live broadcast of this game. I want to go through the last name pronunciations and have you correct me where I'm wrong. I have to be very quick, and I have to be very intentional in reading the last names. And they are challenging across the way. They're not always so easy. Every once in a while, you'll get French pronunciations, which I'm fine with, but when I see a mix of different names, I sometimes figure that the French-looking name in Maryland may not be pronounced like the French-looking name in Quebec. And so when we see Veillette on the roster for the Pride, for example, that can throw me off for a moment. But we go through, and if I get something wrong, so often I have to tell you, this is an interesting bit of family psychology, sports psychology, public, like social psychology, where a lot of times families defer. They'll say it however you want. They don't realize that the effort for me to cross to the other side of the arena to go through this whole process is meant to get everything dialed in. And it turns out pretty well when it happens this way, because we get comments like we do from the Boyce family mentioning that there are a lot of times people don't get it right. Now, the announcers in the arena who call the public address, I can't expect them to go and get those pronunciations. But what I can do is say, hey, for all of those groups out there that want to lead the way in making these things a little bit easier, go ahead and put together a digital file, an audio file of the pronunciation as the family pronounces it, and start aggregating all of that information in some kind of a spreadsheet that can be put up on the website, so that you can just kind of click a button and it'll say Arita, or it'll say Ziegler, or it'll say Lido, et cetera, et cetera. Something like that would make things very handy. Of course, you'd be asking a lot of the PA announcers to do a lot to get that information synthesized. But for someone like me, I do a little bit of this prep work the day before, the night before, even just a half hour before. And it could be handy to have something like that, and not too difficult to be able to execute. All right, so we're going to go ahead and continue clearing the sheet. I'm going to take a quick break, see if I can't heat up the coffee and get ready for third period action. So at the end of 2, Northwood up 3-1. We'll take a quick break, step outside. As we do, check the barometric pressure. When we return, baking tips with Martha. From alongside the 1932 rink in the Jack Shea Arena in Lake Placid, New York, you're watching Junior Women's Hockey League, Northwood Huskies U19 girls versus the Washington Pride U19 girls on Olympic Center TV. We'll be right back. All right, folks, welcome back. It's about that time as we've got a fresh sheet of ice. I know many of you out there are wondering, hey, Glenn, did you heat up that coffee? And indeed I did. I'll tell you what, I was on pins and needles waiting online with only such and such amount of time between the periods. Really active cafe area over at Romer's as we open up third period action. Goaltenders back to their original nets. Beautiful sunny day out there as this is played from the left wing side. Kelly out on the ice for the Huskies, as we see right on the backside. It's a 2-goal game right now, and here goes Wright chasing deeply in her own zone. She will secure the icing. Early third period action as we open up third period. Northwood up 3-1. Skating in the dark sweaters for those of you joining late and or in the future just looking for a random game to watch on demand. Shots on goal comparison, Northwood leading the category 18-16. It's been pretty close in terms of getting shots on net for both teams, as the Pride trying to close the gap here. A quick recap on our scoring as the Pride opened up with a goal by Viederman, assisted by Smith. And then not long after, St. Pierre from Major for the Huskies, and we were tied 1-1. That was in the first. And then Monette followed up late in the first with a goal from Griffiths to Monette. As we opened up second period play, the Huskies added another one courtesy of Reese Lesperance with assists from Pratt and Sheeta. And here we are, early third period action. The Northwood School Huskies girls U19 team leading 3-1. Once again, Glenn Burnett with the play-by-play and color commentary. You'll find me on LinkedIn. You'll also find me on Instagram and YouTube. Instagram and here's a tough break for Tifo as she had gone up with the blocker. A long-range off-speed wrister, unsuspectingly catching us all off guard as that one clips just the top part of the blocker, maybe forearm area. I think there was contact on the way into the net, but a minute 51 into this third period, and the Washington Pride have something to cheer about. And so Brock unassisted. She had just crossed over the blue line, gotten to the top of the slot, had plenty of space. It was not a hard shot. It was one of those deceptive off-speed wristers. And we've got a 1-goal game here. Played out to the left side, chipped in by Erster, and the Huskies will freshen up. turnover. Close call as Lido, the recipient of the handoff, gets the shot off. And now we're all even in shots on goal, 18 apiece. And now chasing deeply in the Pride zone, as that's Kramer. Dropped off into the corner, and looking for the long stretch pass is McGee as she was slipping between the defenders. This is played out to the far side corner. Kramer guarding the goal line. Maloney down in the butterfly, and we'll get a stoppage of play. And so we'll set up a face-off to Maloney's right side. Played from the right wing side, as that's protected by Holmes. Holmes with possession, works it out. As she's got Combe out on the right side. And we see Kelly roaming on the backdoor side. Played into neutral ice. We've got a couple more games on tap for the broadcast, as we're going to follow this one up with a noontime matchup, as we will pick up another game between Northwood Boys Prep and Upper Canada College. And if scheduling works out favorably, I'll jump over to the 1980 rink for the Rothsay Netherwood Northwood School girls game. And so McLean for interference, and the Pride with 97 seconds left on the power play, an opportunity to draw even here as Maloney hands it off. If the scheduling doesn't favor my ability to transition over to the 80 rink to cover the girls for the 140 game after the noontime boys prep game, here's well played by Viederman as she had to rush back to an aggressive St. Pierre. And we're going to get a hold out there. And this is what happens when you're back on defense desperately. Sometimes a penalty is called for. That is usually the result of being out of position. If we don't catch that other game, we'll stick around here and pick up the 2 o'clock game for Northwood School U16 versus Atlantic Coast Academy. Played up top as Griffith sends it down to the half wall on the right side. So Viederman in the box for holding. And we are 4-on-4 for the next 35 seconds. And then the Huskies will have about a minute of power play time, as this one picked up by Benson. Waiting for the tag up. As we see Smith battling out on the ice. Played to St. Pierre. Worked down from the half wall with Griffiths up at the right. And This will come all the way around. Griffiths pinching down to the half wall, centering pass as that goes out across to the far side corner. And that'll go down for icing. And so the Huskies spring one from the box and now are on the power play. 5-on-4 for the next 51 seconds or until further notice. Played out across neutral ice as they go D to D around to right. Right working through the center. Veering out left, and that's going to be fumbled out to neutral ice. Strong pressure by Smith for the Pride, as that'll kill off a little bit more of the penalty. Played along the blue line. Good reaction there by Major as she's able to hold the zone. But very aggressively, we see Veillette force that one up ahead into the offensive zone, and just a dozen seconds left in this Huskies power play. St. Pierre rushing up on the right side as she forces her way into the corner. And we hear the clack, clack, clack on the other side by Defoe, and we're back to even strength. 5-on-5 out on the ice in a one-goal game as Maloney wanted to hand it off to Kramer, but had the puck covered with the glove just long enough to gain the whistle. And so we'll get a face-off to Maloney's right side. Once again, for those of you tuning in late, or perhaps those of you who have been ducking the chat board for a while, go ahead and hit me up. Tell me where you're watching from, which team, which players, and we'll get you a shout out. I want to say thank you very much for strong attendance here on the broadcast. I look forward to seeing all of you again as we're just getting started with this Husky season up here. In a couple of weeks, we'll welcome Can-Am hockey. Here's a wrister that's high and wide. That'll keep things busy. If you've got any family and friends that are playing on teams that compete up here in Lake Placid, perhaps you'll be tuning in for other games as this is played down around the corner. This is just the second year of Olympic Center TV, as I call it. As the Olympic Center calls it, it's Lake Placid TV. Well, we've seen some improvements from year to year. I've spent some time working in product development, support, customer interaction, client relations, that kind of thing. And here's a shot from the short side. Played out in front. Out to the corner as the Huskies holding up the attack. And so I have an appreciation for any particular product that I'm working with, as I'm not only working in this particular role, but I'm also a customer. And I like to know what works and what doesn't work. And while I'm not a paid representative of Olympic Center TV, I am a user, and I like to give comments on what's working, what's not working. I like also taking your feedback as this is played around the far side corner. One thing that we noticed in this JWHL game is that in the stats tab of the video player, it is keeping live stats, which is oh so handy, particularly when I don't get to hear our PA announcer calling out goals and penalties. Sometimes it gets that loud I can't hear it. And so that is a value added to this product. I'm looking forward to more new features and benefits as this is played through the middle. Worked out on the left side. This is Gillis. Gillis Pressured by Viederman. Sent up to Major. Around the corner to Griffiths. And this makes its way to St. Pierre on the left wing side. St. Pierre trying to settle the rolling puck. Finally does. Works all the way around the perimeter. Down low, Maloney getting some support here from Lito as Lito sends it out through neutral ice. And that's going untouched for icing. 9:24 remaining, third period action. Shots on goal relatively close here, 21-18, favoring Northwood. One of the great things about these tournaments is that you get to see a bunch of the teams that are inactive for the moment gathering around to scout the competition. As hockey isn't just the physical, but it's also a bit academic. There is a certain intellectual nature. And so we get a stoppage of play, some fresh skates coming out on the ice. This is played by Maloney, handed off. We've seen a lot of strong play by the Washington Pride netminder, as Maloney has been helping keep this Pride team in the game. Played back out to neutral ice as Brock possessing, now played out to Veillette with a shot on net. Turned away by Defoe. And now McLean. McLean dropped it to right, and now around the horn into the middle as this is sent off the side of the cage. Played back out to neutral ice. And a close one as Marceau almost came up with a scoring opportunity. Played behind the net, sent through the crease to the near side, and here's Marceau. Marceau head on a swivel, keeping an eye open for options and opportunities. As this is played by Boyce, sent around the corner wall. Played up top by there. And now in the middle, here's a shot. And that's held on to by Maloney. 7:15 remaining. How many of the folks out there in the online audience have played hockey? That is sometimes an interesting question. Yesterday in the Northwood Stansted game, we had the opportunity to see Zonin for Stansted skating. We had learned very quickly, once I saw the name on the roster, looked it up to see if there was any relation to a similar name that used to skate for Northwood, Bill Zonin. I believe we mentioned this on a prior broadcast, but Bill Zonin back in 2018, I want to say 2018, 2019, maybe as late as 2020, early 2020, before everything shut down. Played for the Northwood School Huskies boys prep team. Here's an opportunity. St. Pierre with a shot, and that one's paddled down by Maloney. Well, Bill Zonin this year in the NHL draft was picked number 22 overall by the Pittsburgh Penguins. And when I saw Zanin on the Stansted girls sheet, I wondered if there was any relation. Indeed there is. They are brother and sister. So when I asked the question about anybody tuned in, whether or not you have played hockey, it's not unusual. A lot of families are steeped in hockey play, whether it's pond hockey or organized league hockey. As St. Pierre comes back, gaining possession, played up to Kelly. And now Kelly working in on the right wing side behind the back. Pass into the slot as that's cleared away. Played out to neutral ice. As Holmes angles it up ahead. Kelly reaching out just beyond her reach. St. Pierre going straight to the net. That was a close call there for the Pride. You don't want St. Pierre unattended in front of the net, even without the puck. Some of the strengths of these players out here, not just positioning with the puck, but what they do away from the puck that sets up lots of opportunities. And now this is worked up by Kelly. Kelly guarded by Boyce, and Boyce able to shut that down. Played from the near side. Heavy pressure coming on from Veillette. And now the Huskies once again. And it is back and forth, zone to zone. This is putting a lot of mileage on both teams' skates. Brocked from the near half wall. Played into the corner. Once again, Boyce sends it up to the half wall, and the Huskies retain possession. Played out towards the back door. A lot to be said, not only for the conditioning here, but the techniques being employed. Credit not only the current coaches for each of these players, but credit any of their previous coaches that set them up for the successes that they are enjoying in their respective teams. In some of these cases, players go to individual training sessions and camps. As this is played all the way down for icing with 3:52 remaining in regulation in a one-goal game. The Pride keeping it very interesting. I chatted pre-game with head coach Kush Sadhu. I asked him how they were feeling. Now, of course, coaches are typically not going to say, we don't feel good. But in some cases, they'll share a little bit of information, like we've got a couple of players out, so we're playing a little shorthanded, as was the case last weekend when the girls played the Rochester Junior Americans. They only had 4 alternate players on the bench, so they didn't even have deep lines. And they had to rotate through a variety of player combinations instead of being with the same line that you're used to playing with. So every once in a while, coaches will share that little bit of information, but other than that, you've got to keep everything pretty well close to the vest. You don't want the chance that the broadcaster is going to go and share that information with the other side, and I wouldn't be interested in getting in the middle of those things anyway. As this is played up on the left side, racing in is McGee. McGee sending it up top as they go point to point. O'Barron and Evans on the backside, and we've got a high sticking call. So when I was just checking basically the temperature or the pulse pregame I'll usually just ask, how's everybody feeling? Is everybody healthy? Is that's typically the case. As we're down to 2:39 remaining, we've got a quick timeout here.
Timeout, Washington.
And so this is a timeout by the Pride. And I'm just looking to get a little sense of how each team is feeling coming into the game. Are they coming off a loss? Are they coming off a win? Of course, in this case, the Pride picked up a win yesterday. There are different types of wins. If you win in a dominating fashion, that sometimes does not test you so well to put you into competition against a strong team like the Huskies, for example. And of course, you don't want to get overconfident because of the margin of victory. And many of these players are pretty well grounded in knowing you cannot overestimate any of your competition, and you definitely ought not underestimate. If you want to have a chance, you just get out there and play the situation. As that one's ticked away. Defoe right now with 17 saves on the game. As this comes around to the near side, picked up by Monette, going cross ice just as Mayer is coming off the bench and into action. And now we've got an empty net, and this was part of the plan on that timeout. 6-on-5, and the Huskies with St. Pierre, a pure scorer, as Monette aiming for the cage. This is split through the D, and heavy pressure. 6-on-5 right now, as this is played up top to Viderman. Viderman goes cross ice, and jumping in the passing lane is Gillis, as she's able to clear it. And a big play by Viderman as she's able to disallow what was an imminent goal opportunity. We're down to the final minute in a one-goal game, and the Pride looking to tie it up here as this is played out to Kelly. Kelly with a wrister puts it in the basket, and with 44.9 remaining, that might be the one that closes the door for the Huskies, as they are battling and looking like they were just trying to get their way to the end of this game. They held in very closely throughout, and even leading a game is not always a safe position to be in or a comfortable position to be in, particularly if you know that you might not have all the gas in the tank. And so Kelly unassisted as this is played behind the net out to the far side, into the middle, as this is Sheeta veering out to the right side. And now played out into the corner as Lesperance comes into the slot with one final shot wide of the net. And the buzzer sounds as the Huskies withstand a gritty Washington Pride attack and come up with the 4-2 victory, with goal 4 coming on the empty netter. And so the Huskies go to 1-1 in this weekend tournament, as both teams will gather at the center stripe to exchange goodwill on the handshake line. We say good game, good game. Indeed. Safe travels, good meals, and good luck. What a great day to be a hockey player. What a great day to play hockey. And So for those of you looking for updates on the standings in this weekend, you can head over to the JWHL homepage and take a look at the game sheet information as we see Mount Academy leading the way 2-0, followed by the 2-0 Naha White. The Pride came into this, I think it was 1-1. And so they'll improve, or they'll drop to 1-2. Northwood will level up to 1-1. Rothsay Netherwood 1-0, Stansted College 1-0, and the Philly Junior Flyers and Pacific Steelers 0-2, looking for their first win of the weekend. That's all on the JWHL.org homepage on the game sheet. And take a look at that information to keep up to date on all of the schedule and standings, etc. I want to say thank you so much to those who tuned in on the live broadcast, to all the families that shared your good words, to the Boyce family, to the Pride fans, to the Erster family, both of the grandparents out there. Out to Peggy. Shout out once again to the major fans in Marcellus, New York, and the Viderman fans and Pride fans out in Delaware. Once again to Montclair, Virginia as well. To the Boyce family. Glenn Burnett with your play-by-play and color commentary from alongside the 1932 rink in the Jack Shea Arena in Lake Placid, New York. You've been watching JWHL Tournament Hockey U19 girls as the Northwood School Huskies take the victory 4-2 over the Washington Pride. We'll go ahead and clear the sheet. I've got a little bit of a break until the noon game. We'll be back on the broadcast. You'll find me on LinkedIn. The links are up in the chat board. And you'll find me on Instagram and YouTube. That's Bakers Radio on Instagram and Bakers Radio USA on YouTube. There's not a whole lot going on over there, but a little bit of stuff. That'll give you a little context. Thank you so much for tuning in. You've been watching Olympic Center TV. We'll see you on the next one.